Monday again. Alarm, traffic, work, bills to pay. You live on autopilot, waiting for your next paycheck like it's salvation. When I earn more, I'll be happy, you think. But how many times have you earned more and still felt empty? I am Solomon, the man who possessed more wealth than any human being who ever walked this earth. I had enough gold to buy entire nations. I experienced every pleasure money could offer. And today I come to tell you something that could save you years of your life. I almost lost my soul in the process. When God offered me anything I wanted, I didn't ask for riches. I asked for wisdom. And it was that choice that gave me everything you're seeking now. Because I understood something that few comprehend. Money doesn't change who you are. It only reveals. Right now, there's a silent war happening inside you. Between the man you are and the man you know you should be. Between living on scraps or ruling your own life. Between being a slave to circumstances or the architect of your destiny. I'm going to teach you today the secrets I discovered after conquering everything and nearly losing what truly matters. These aren't empty formulas or cheap motivation. These are principles that have sustained empires and destroyed others. Principles that can transform not just your bank account, but the very essence of who you are. Because true wealth isn't about how much you have. It's about who you become in the process of acquiring it. And if you're ready for this transformation, if you're tired of living below your potential, then this video could be the turning point of your life. Subscribe to the channel now, because what I'm about to share in the next lines is wisdom that took me a lifetime to learn. And it might be exactly what you need to finally become the man you always knew you could be. Number 1, the choice that defined everything. Have you ever caught yourself looking at other people's lives and wondering why they have everything while you're still struggling? Ever felt that bitter sting of envy when you see someone prospering while you're breaking your head trying to figure out what you're doing wrong? That pain that eats away inside, making you question whether you were really born to be more than you are today. I understand that pain because I've been on the other side. But let me tell you something that completely changed the course of my story, and can change yours too. When I was young, God appeared to me in a dream and said something that echoed through eternity. Ask what you want me to give you. Imagine that scene for a moment. The creator of the universe, the one who has dominion over all the wealth of the earth, offering me anything at all. I could have asked for endless gold. I could have asked for invincible armies, lands stretching as far as the eye could see, or the power to conquer any nation. Any ambitious young man would have done exactly that. But something inside me whispered a truth that would change not just my life, but the destiny of an entire nation. I asked for wisdom. It wasn't an emotional choice. It was strategic, because I understood something that most people take a lifetime to understand. Whoever has wisdom can build any wealth they desire. Whoever doesn't have it destroys even what they inherited from their parents. Think about it. How many people do you know who won fortunes in the lottery and lost everything in a few years? How many children of successful entrepreneurs who squandered empires built over generations? Money in the hands of someone without wisdom is like a sword in the hands of a child, more dangerous to the one holding it than to any enemy. Wisdom taught me to discern between what has real value and what only shines for an instant. It showed me that most people are chasing the wind, pursuing things that don't produce lasting fruit. They're so busy trying to look rich that they forget to become truly rich. Imagine a man who plants a seed of gold and another who plants a fruit tree. The first will have immediate shine, but when the earth covers the seed, nothing will remain. The second will wait patiently, water consistently, and one day harvest fruit that will feed not just him, but future generations. The difference between them isn't in the seed, but in the wisdom to choose the right seed. A few years after that night, I became the richest man the earth had ever known. Not by chance or luck, but because wisdom taught me where to invest, with whom to make alliances, when to speak, and when to stay silent, when to act, and when to wait. It was my most faithful counselor, my shrewdest general, my most skilled merchant. But here's the turning point you need to understand. You also have a choice before you right now. Maybe God won't appear to you in a dream, but life is offering you the same opportunity I was given. You can keep asking for the wrong things, asking for quick money, easy opportunities, shortcuts that will take you to the top without effort. Or you can make the choice I made. Seek first the wisdom that makes any conquest possible. Stop now and reflect honestly. What have you been asking of life? Are you anxious for results you don't yet have the capacity to sustain? Or are you willing to plant the right seeds, even if the harvest takes a little longer to arrive? Because let me tell you something I discovered over the years. Whoever seeks wisdom never becomes poor, but whoever seeks only money rarely becomes wise. The choice is before you, and this choice, more than any other you've made, will define not just what you'll have, but mainly who you'll become. Choose like a king. Choose wisdom. Number 2, the sin that made me rich. There's a lie you believe that's preventing you from getting rich. A lie so well told that even intelligent people fall for it. The lie that money changes people. Let me tell you about the darkest moment of my life, when I became a slave to the very wealth God had given me. It was in that abyss that I discovered the most cruel and liberating truth about money. A truth that can change your life forever. At the height of my prosperity, when my kingdom stretched from sea to sea and riches flowed like rivers toward Jerusalem, I committed the sin of greed. I multiplied wives, armies, and alliances. I accumulated gold like sand from the sea. I built palaces that touched the clouds and gardens that rivaled Eden. And it was precisely in that excess, in that insatiable voracity for more, that I learned the most important truth about money. A truth that most people take a lifetime to understand, if they ever understand it at all. Money doesn't transform anyone, it only reveals what was already hidden in the heart. Think of a magnifying glass under the sun. It doesn't create fire, it just concentrates what was already there. Money works exactly like that with human character. It amplifies, intensifies, reveals what already existed in a latent state. When a fool becomes rich, he becomes arrogant. Not because money made him arrogant, but because arrogance was already there, just waiting for an opportunity to manifest. When a wise man becomes wealthy, he becomes generous, because generosity was already part of his essence. The insecure person with money becomes controlling and possessive. The person of integrity transforms into a builder of legacies. I discovered this in the most painful way possible. When wealth came into my hands, it didn't change who I was. It revealed who I had always been underneath the mask of humility forced by necessity. I saw humble men transform into tyrants when fortune knocked at their door. I saw apparently generous people become petty when money began to flow. But I also saw truly noble hearts become sources of blessing for thousands when blessed with prosperity. The essential question isn't how to get rich. Any minimally intelligent person can learn techniques, strategies, and methods to multiply money. The real question, the one that will determine whether your wealth will be a blessing or a curse, is this: who will you become when you're rich? Because let me give you absolute certainty. If you're seriously seeking wealth, you'll succeed eventually. And on that day, money will function like a giant amplifier of your true nature. If there's envy in your heart today, it will become paranoia when you're rich. If there's pride, it will transform into unbearable arrogance. If there's fear, it will become paralyzing anxiety about losing everything. But if there's gratitude, it will become transformative generosity. If there's true humility, it will become wisdom that blesses generations. Money is a mirror of the soul. It doesn't lie, doesn't hide, doesn't forgive. It simply reveals. That's why so many people are afraid of getting rich. Deep down, they know that money will expose who they really are underneath the facade they've built to impress others. They prefer to remain poor and maintain the illusion that they're better people than they really are. But you don't have to be one of those people. You can use this truth to your advantage. Before seeking wealth, work on your character. Before multiplying your money, multiply your integrity. Before building external empires, build an internal kingdom solid enough to withstand any storm. Because when money arrives, and it will arrive, if you apply the right principles, it will find a heart prepared to transform it into blessing, not curse. Look inside yourself right now. What would money reveal about you if it arrived in your account today? What kind of person would you become if you had unlimited resources? That answer will determine not just whether you deserve to be rich, but whether you'll be able to stay rich when you get there. Money doesn't lie. It's the most honest test that exists for human character. And are you prepared to pass that test? Number 3, advice worth more than gold. Have you ever had the feeling that you're walking alone on a dark road, stumbling over obstacles that others manage to avoid? Ever felt like you're repeating the same mistakes, making the same bad decisions, but don't know how to break this cycle? This intellectual loneliness that corrodes the soul is more common than you imagine. During my years as king, I had the privilege of observing up close the rise and fall of empires, the construction and destruction of fortunes, the meteoric success and devastating ruin of men who seemed to have everything under control. And one thing caught my attention more than any other. The difference between those who prosper and those who fail rarely lies in talent, luck, or circumstances. It lies in the quality of the advice they choose to follow. I saw powerful kings fall because they surrounded themselves with flatterers who only confirmed their prejudices. I saw simple men prosper because they had enough humility to listen to guidance from those with more experience. The difference between wisdom and foolishness is often just this. The wise person seeks counsel. The fool already thinks he knows everything. There's a principle I wrote that changed how I make decisions to this day. In the multitude of counselors, there is safety. It's not just a pretty phrase. It's a spiritual law as real as gravity. When you try to solve complex problems alone, it's like trying to see your own back. No matter how much you contort yourself, there will always be blind spots. But when you invite experienced people to look at the same situation, each brings a unique perspective, different experience, an angle you would never consider alone. Imagine 2 men lost in a dense forest. The first trusts only his instincts and keeps walking in circles, convinced he's on the right path. The second stops, listens to the sounds around him, observes the position of the sun, feels the direction of the wind, looks for signs left by other travelers. Which one has a better chance of finding the way out? Pride is the greatest enemy of prosperity. It whispers seductive lies in your ear. You're smart enough. You don't need anyone's help. If you accept advice, you'll seem weak. And while you believe these lies, others are benefiting from the collective wisdom of generations. But here's a secret most don't understand. Not all advice is worth gold. In fact, some advice is worth less than the air you breathe to pronounce it. The issue isn't listening to anyone who offers an opinion. The issue is knowing who to listen to. Don't seek advice from those who speak well, but from those who prove with results what they teach. Don't listen to those who have beautiful theories, but to those who have real scars from battles won. Don't give ear to those who tell you what you want to hear, but to those who have the courage to tell you what you need to hear. The fool's greatest mistake is thinking he already knows enough. The wise man's mistake is knowing he can always learn more, even from people who apparently know less than he does. Because sometimes an innocent question from a child can reveal the fatal flaw in a plan that took months to elaborate. I had counselors who helped me make decisions that generated unimaginable wealth. I also made catastrophic mistakes in moments when I thought I could decide alone. The difference between success and error was often simply having enough humility to ask, "What would you do in my place?" But let me ask you a question that could completely change your trajectory. What voices have you been listening to? Are you seeking guidance from those who built something solid and lasting? Or are you following advice from people who are as lost as you are? Are you listening to mentors who paid the price to learn the lessons they're teaching you? Or are you following internet influencers who sell dreams they themselves never achieved? Walking alone isn't a sign of strength. It's a recipe for falling faster and harder. The wisest men I've ever known had one thing in common. They were surrounded by other wise men who weren't afraid to confront them when necessary. If you want to accelerate your growth, Stop trying to figure everything out alone. Look for people who have already walked the path you want to travel. Pay for their knowledge if necessary. Invest more in mentorship than in theoretical courses. Value practical experience more than academic degrees. And when you receive wise counsel, don't just listen, apply it. Because unapplied advice is like medicine not taken. It won't cure the disease, no matter how good the formula. Remember, the wise man listens to counsel, but the prosperous man chooses who to listen to. And that choice can be the difference between a life of frustrated attempts and a life of extraordinary achievements. Number 4, the secret the rich hide. You wake up every day hoping today will be the day of the great turnaround. You become obsessed with that brilliant idea that will change your life, anxiously await a unique opportunity that will catapult you to success. You spend hours consuming content about miraculous strategies, secret formulas, revolutionary methods that promise quick wealth. But let me tell you something that could end this illusion once and for all. This obsession with the magic solution is exactly what's keeping you poor. During all my years observing human nature and the paths of prosperity, I discovered that there's a well-told lie that keeps most people in mediocrity. The lie that wealth is born from a brilliant idea, a stroke of luck, or a unique opportunity that falls from heaven. The truth is much less glamorous and much more powerful. True wealth is born from diligence, from the brutal discipline of doing what needs to be done every day, even when no one is watching, even when you don't feel like it, even when results haven't arrived yet. There's a small creature that became my most valuable teacher about prosperity, the ant. Have you ever stopped to observe an ant working? It doesn't have a supervisor controlling its schedule. It doesn't have goals imposed by a boss. It doesn't have tight deadlines to meet. And yet, it works with a consistency that would shame most human beings. The ant understands something that escaped most people's comprehension. Extraordinary results don't come from extraordinary efforts at specific moments. They come from ordinary efforts, applied extraordinarily well, day after day, without exception. While you're looking for the great secret, the rich are doing the same simple thing repeatedly, with a consistency that borders on obsession. They work when they feel like it and when they don't. They invest when the market is high and when it's plummeting. They build relationships when they need to and when they don't. They study when they feel motivated and when they feel lazy. Silent consistency beats unapplied talent in gigantic proportions. I saw men of average intelligence build empires because they applied simple principles with absolute discipline. And I saw geniuses die in poverty because they kept waiting for the perfect opportunity that never came. The rich work with more focus, not necessarily more hours. They understood that time is the only truly democratic capital that exists. We all have exactly 24 hours a day. The difference isn't in the amount of time available, but in the quality with which that time is invested. While most people spend time, the rich invest time. The difference may seem subtle, but it's the difference between building something lasting and just surviving until the end of the month. Time is spent on empty entertainment, purposeless social media, conversations that lead nowhere, activities that make you feel busy but don't make you productive. Time is invested in learning that generates valuable skills, in relationships that open doors to the future, in activities that build something greater than yourself. The rich learn to avoid distractions like poison. They know that every minute lost in futilities is one less minute invested in building their future. That's why they're so protective of their time. It's not arrogance, it's strategy. Let me ask you a question that could be the turning point of your life. Are you investing your time to build something or just to survive? Are your daily activities bringing you closer to your goals or keeping you busy in mediocrity? Because if you want to enter the select group of those who truly prosper, you'll need to trade the search for the magic shortcut for the discipline of consistency. You'll need to stop looking for the great secret and start applying small disciplines every day. Wealth isn't a destination you reach all at once. It's a muscle you develop repetition by repetition, day by day, choice by choice. And like any muscle, it only grows when you resist the impulse to stop at the first difficulty. The rich aren't special people with access to secret information. They're ordinary people who developed extraordinary disciplines. They understood that success isn't about momentary intensity, but about relentless consistency. And if you're willing to trade the fantasy of the quick solution for the reality of constant work, if you can resist the temptation of distractions and focus on what really matters, then you have everything you need to join them. But if you're still waiting for the miracle, the brilliant idea, the unique opportunity, then stay where you are. Because while you wait, others are building brick by brick the empire you dream of having. Number 5. A mistake that almost destroyed my kingdom. There's a moment in the life of every man who builds something great when he looks around and thinks, I did this. I deserve this. I am the architect of my own greatness. It's the most dangerous moment in any successful person's journey. And it was exactly at that moment that I almost lost everything. At the height of my prosperity, when my kingdom stretched from river to river and riches flowed like waterfalls toward Jerusalem, when kings from distant nations came seeking my wisdom and I had more gold than I could count, I made the mistake that almost destroyed not just my empire, but my very soul. I turned away from the fear of the Lord. Pride is a silent poison that contaminates the heart gradually. It doesn't knock on your door announcing its intentions. It enters disguised as self-confidence, presents itself as deservingness, whispers that you're special, that the rules that apply to others don't apply to you. And when I realized it, I was worshiping the creation instead of the Creator. I was revering my own intelligence instead of the wisdom that was given to me. I was trusting in my strength instead of recognizing the source from which it came. It was then that I discovered a terrifying truth. A man can have everything on the outside and have nothing on the inside. He can possess kingdom, riches, power, and influence. But if he loses the center, he loses everything that really matters. Money without fear of God becomes a trap. Wealth without reverence becomes vanity. Success without spiritual humility becomes an illusion that can crumble at any moment. Because let me tell you something that took me years to understand. It's not you who sustains your wealth. It's your wealth that can sustain you or destroy you, depending on the foundation upon which it's built. When fear of the Lord is the foundation of your prosperity, it becomes a blessing that multiplies and blesses others. When ego is the foundation, it becomes a weight that can crush you when you least expect it. I began to notice the signs of destruction when things that used to bring me joy started becoming empty. Achievements that once filled me with satisfaction became insufficient. The search for more became compulsive, insatiable, desperate. It was as if I was trying to fill a bucket with holes. No matter how much I poured into it, there was always an emptiness that consumed everything and asked for more. It was in that abyss that I rediscovered the truth I had forgotten. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. It's not paralyzing fear, but transformative reverence. It's the recognition that there's something greater than you, something that deserves your submission, something that can give meaning to everything you've built. When I returned to that foundation, something extraordinary happened. The same wealth that was becoming a curse returned to being a blessing. The same success that was isolating me returned to connecting me with greater purpose. The same prosperity that was hardening my heart returned to being a tool to serve others. It didn't change the quantity of what I had. It changed the quality of my relationship with what I had. And that change made all the difference between owning my possessions or being possessed by them. Here's the warning I need to give you. If you're building your wealth on any foundation other than reverence for the Creator, you're building on quicksand. It may seem solid for a while, but when storms come, and they always come, everything will collapse. The pursuit of prosperity must be grounded in reverence, not vanity. It must be motivated by gratitude, not pride. It must be directed towards serving, not just accumulating. Because when you understand that everything you have is a gift, not a personal conquest, your relationship with wealth transforms completely. You stop desperately clinging to what you possess and start wisely administering what has been entrusted to you. Look now at your pursuit of prosperity. What's the foundation upon which you're building? Are you seeking wealth to glorify yourself or to be a channel of blessing for others? Does your motivation come from gratitude or greed? These questions aren't just philosophical. They're practical and urgent, because the answer to them will determine whether your wealth will be your greatest blessing or your greatest curse. The center needs to be in the right place before you reach the top, because if you climb without the right center, the fall won't just be financial. It will be existential. And believe me when I say, it's not worth gaining the whole world if it costs your soul. I almost made that mistake. Don't make it too. Number 6. The most powerful law of the universe. You talk to yourself all the time. In the early morning hours, when you wake up and look in the mirror, during the commute to work, when you think about the day's challenges, before sleeping when you reflect on what happened, this internal conversation never stops. And this can be the most powerful tool for your transformation, or the most destructive instrument for your ruin. There's a law that governs the universe with mathematical precision, but which most people completely ignore. A law as fundamental as gravity, but infinitely more powerful in its effects on human destiny. It's the law I discovered after years observing the creative and destructive power that comes from men's mouths. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. It's not a metaphor. It's not poetic exaggeration. It's a spiritual law, as real and implacable as any physical law that governs this world. The words you pronounce, whether to others or to yourself, are seeds that will inevitably produce harvest in your life. During my years as king, I observed men identical in talents, opportunities, and resources arrive at completely opposite destinies. Some prospered beyond any reasonable expectation. Others failed in ways that seemed impossible, considering everything they had in their favor. The difference wasn't in external circumstances. It was in the internal and external language each one chose to adopt. Men who prosper speak differently. They don't verbalize fear, even when they feel fear. They don't pronounce doubt, even when facing uncertainties. They don't declare defeat, even when going through temporary defeats. They understood that their words don't just describe their reality, but actively participate in creating it. Imagine two farmers with identical lands. The first spends the day talking about pests, droughts, and possible failures. The second talks about abundant harvests, rain in the right measure, and coming prosperity. Even if they plant the same seeds in the same soil, they're planting different seeds with their words. And these linguistic seeds will produce fruit as real as the physical seeds. The word is a creative force that most people use against themselves, without realizing it. They talk about their limitations as if they were permanent. They describe their problems as if they were unsolvable. They prophesy failures over themselves and then wonder why everything goes wrong. But there's a crucial difference between recognizing problems and prophesying defeats. The wise man identifies obstacles to overcome them. The fool declares impossibilities to justify his inaction. When you say, "I'll never succeed," you're planting a seed of impossibility that will grow until it becomes reality. When you say, "I always make the same mistakes," you're programming your mind to repeat destructive patterns. When you say, "I wasn't born to be rich," you're creating a mental barrier that can be stronger than any external obstacle. On the other hand, when you declare possibilities based on correct principles, you're aligning your inner strength with universal laws that work in your favor. It's not empty positive thinking. It's recognition that you actively participate in creating your reality through the creative power of your words. Mastery of internal language is even more important than mastery of external language, because you can deceive others with beautiful words, but you can't deceive your own subconscious mind. It hears everything you think and accepts as truth everything you repeat with conviction. If you want to transform your external reality, start by transforming your internal language. Stop mentally repeating your limitations and start declaring your possibilities. Replace "I can't" with "I haven't been able to yet, but I'll learn." Trade "that's impossible" for "that's challenging, but I'll find a way." It's not about denying real problems or living in fantasy. It's about using language as a construction tool instead of an instrument of destruction. The most prosperous men I've known had different vocabularies. They talked about opportunities where others saw only obstacles. They found solutions where others saw only problems. They declared victories where others prophesied defeats. And the difference between these vocabularies wasn't just stylistic, it was strategic, because they understood that controlling language is controlling thought, and controlling thought is controlling action, and controlling action is controlling destiny. Let me challenge you with a question that could completely change your trajectory. What kind of seeds have you been planting with your words? When you talk about your future, about your possibilities, about your dreams, are you planting seeds of life or seeds of death? Stop today and analyze your internal and external language from the past week. Have you been speaking like someone who will prosper or like someone who will fail? Are your words building bridges to your future or walls that prevent you from getting there? Because if you can master your tongue, you will have mastered the most powerful tool for shaping your destiny. And if you can't, it will continue shaping your destiny against you, word by word, day after day, until it becomes too late to reverse the damage. Number 7. The final test. I'm at the end of my earthly journey, and when I look back at all the palaces I built, all the riches I accumulated, all the achievements I reached, one truth stands out with crystal clarity. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. It's not the despair of a bitter man, it's wisdom from someone who had everything and understood the true value of each thing. It's the conclusion of someone who passed through the final test that all wealth imposes, the test of what it does to your heart. Because, let me tell you something, few understand until it's too late. Money isn't the end of the journey, it's just the means. And the true test of wealth isn't how much you can accumulate, but what it does to who you are inside. During all these years observing men and women in their relationship with prosperity, I identified two possible trajectories. Wealth can be blessing or curse. It can elevate or destroy. It can bring closer or isolate. And the difference between these two realities isn't in the amount of money, but in the internal transformation it provokes. If wealth brings you closer to God, connects you with people more deeply, and gives you a sense of greater purpose, then it's a blessing. But if it isolates you, hardens your heart, and makes you insatiable, then it's a curse disguised as success. I experienced both sides of this coin. There were moments when my prosperity made me a channel of blessing for millions. I built hospitals, fed the poor, financed works that benefited generations. On those occasions, wealth was a divine tool in my hands. But there were also periods when the same wealth isolated me in an ivory tower of arrogance and self-sufficiency. Moments when it made me believe I was better than others, that I deserved special privileges, that the moral rules that applied to others didn't apply to me. The difference between these two states wasn't in what I possessed, but in what possessed my heart. Here's the most important truth I can transmit to you. Wealth is a spiritual test before being a material conquest. It reveals who you really are when all masks fall and all external limitations are removed. When you don't have money, it's easy to convince yourself that you would be generous if you had it. It's simple to imagine you would be humble if you were successful. It's comforting to believe you would be different from the arrogant rich people you criticize. But when wealth arrives, it tests each of these convictions. It forces you to prove in practice what you previously defended only in theory. And many discover, to their horror, that they weren't who they thought they were. The real value of wealth isn't in what you can buy with it, but in the internal transformation it provokes or prevents. If it makes you more compassionate, more grateful, more focused on serving others, then every effort to conquer it was worthwhile. But if it makes you colder, more demanding, more distant from those who really matter, then it's better that you never conquered it. Because in the end, this end comes faster than anyone imagines. You won't take a cent of what you accumulated, but you'll take every transformation you allowed to happen inside you. The question you need to answer with brutal honesty is this: With what you have now, who are you becoming? Is your pursuit of more money making you a better or worse person? Is it bringing you closer to the people you love or distancing you from them? Is it strengthening your character or corroding your integrity? It doesn't matter how much you have. What matters is who you're becoming with what you have. If you have little and are allowing scarcity to make you bitter, envious, or desperate, then you've already failed the test, even if you one day become rich. But if you have little and are using this limitation to develop gratitude, humility, and determination, then you've already passed the first phase of the test. If you have much and are using your abundance to serve, bless, and build lasting legacies, then your wealth is genuine blessing. But if you have much and are using your position to isolate, control, or impress, then your wealth is a golden trap. The secret of true wealth isn't in conquering the whole world. It's in not losing your soul in the process. It's in reaching the end of the journey and being able to say that money made you a better person, not just a richer person. This is my final advice to you, and perhaps the most important. Before seeking external wealth, make sure you possess enough internal wealth to sustain it. Before multiplying your money, multiply your character. Before building material empires, build solid spiritual foundations. Because money that isn't based on solid character is a house built on sand. It may impress for a while, but it won't resist life's storms. The choice is in your hands. You can use wealth or be used by it. You can dominate it or be dominated by it. You can transform it into blessing or allow it to become curse. But don't be deceived. This choice needs to be made before wealth arrives. Because when it arrives, it will be too late to change who you are. It will only reveal who you always were. When you plant a seed, it disappears into the earth for a while. You don't see it grow in the first weeks. There are no visible signs that something is happening. But underneath the surface, silent roots are spreading, creating the foundation that will one day sustain a majestic tree. The principles I've shared with you today are seeds. They may seem simple, even obvious to some, but their true strength isn't in complexity. It's in consistent application over time. It's in the courage to plant when others are just waiting to see something sprout. You've come this far because something inside you recognizes that there's more. More wealth, more wisdom, more purpose than you've been experiencing. This recognition isn't accidental. It's the call of your own greatness echoing within your chest. The difference between those who transform and those who remain the same isn't in the knowledge they receive, but in what they do with that knowledge in the coming days, the coming weeks, the coming months. Because real transformation happens away from the spotlight, in the intimacy of your daily choices. If you feel these principles resonate with something deep inside you, if you recognize that your journey of true prosperity is just beginning, then subscribe to this channel. Because this conversation doesn't end here. It deepens with each new encounter. Remember, you don't need to be perfect to begin, but you need to begin to become who you were called to be. Time keeps passing anyway. The question isn't whether you'll have more time, but what you'll do with the time you have. Every passing moment is a new opportunity to choose wisdom instead of haste, principles instead of shortcuts, character instead of appearance. And these choices, accumulated over time, become the destiny you're creating for yourself. True wealth isn't a destination where you arrive and stop. It's a state of being that you cultivate with every breath, every decision, every word you choose to pronounce. And right now, you have everything you need to take the next step in this journey. The choice was always yours, and it continues to be.